Here are the top stories for today, February 26, 2020. The Philippines sends the highest number of repatriates among other foreigners on board the COVID-19 infected cruise ship. DFA Secretary Teodoro Locsin Jr. lauded the AFP for deploying 2 naval ships to repatriate Filipinos affected by tensions in the Middle East. And a boost in tourism industry in Mati is expected with the inclusion of Poha and 2 others into the list of world's most beautiful bays. Good day, I'm William Theo. Welcome to the PNA Newsroom. Malacanang on Wednesday expressed high hopes for the health of Filipino repatriates who arrive in the country on Tuesday evening. These are Filipinos who came from coronavirus-hit cruise ship in Japan. Janice Cave has the story.
A total of 445 Filipino nationals have been repatriated by the Philippine government from Japan following their 14-day isolation aboard the COVID-19 infected MV Diamond Princess. This is the second batch of Filipinos that the DFA brought home following the repatriation of 30 others from the virus epicenter Wuhan last February 9. The Philippine Embassy in Tokyo said this is the highest number of repatriates among other foreigners on board the cruise ship. 2 charter aircraft ferried the Filipino repatriates from Tokyo to the Philippines. The first one, carrying a total of 309 repatriates, arrived at Clark Air Base at 10:10 p.m. on Tuesday, while the second plane, carrying another 136, arrived at 12:12 a.m. on February 26. The DFA said all arrangements upon arrival were handled as agreed in IATF resolution. After landing, all repatriates, as well as the DFA and DOH repatriation team members and PAL flight crew, were brought to the Athletes Village in New Clark City for the 14-day quarantine program of the DOH. Of the more than 500 Filipino crew and passengers aboard the cruise ship, 80 tested positive for COVID-19 and have been admitted to Japanese hospitals. As of February 25, 9 crew members have been successfully treated and discharged from the hospitals with clean bills of health. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Janice Cave.
Meanwhile, DFA Secretary Teodoro Locsin Jr. on Tuesday lauded the Armed Forces of the Philippines for heeding the call to deploy 2 naval ships to repatriate Filipinos affected by tensions in the Middle East. BRP Davao del Sur and BRP Ramon Alcaraz are currently docked at Port Sultan Qaboos, Muscat, Oman to repatriate Filipinos affected by recent tensions in the Middle East. This mission is part of the AFP Joint Task Force Pagpauli, headed by AFP Vice Chief of Staff Vice Admiral Gaudencio Collado Jr., who is also in Oman to personally oversee the situation there. While awaiting orders from Manila on the specifics of repatriation, Naval Task Force 82's contingent, along with Collado's party, engaged the Filipino community in Oman in a 2-day open ship tour and visit in Philippine School Sultanate of Oman, as well as promoting naval diplomacy through the courtesy call of the Royal Navy of Oman Chief Rear Admiral Abdullah bin Qasim Al Raisi. Locsin recognized the goodwill of the Omani government for opening Muscat and allowing the Philippine Navy ships to have a temporary home in the region, which he said is a testament of the Philippines-Oman relations. President Rodrigo Duterte on Tuesday assured soldiers that he would give them the best of everything under his term. Benj Bondoc reports.
During the change of command ceremony of the Presidential Security Group, President Duterte said he pitied soldiers wounded in battle, especially those who lost arms and limbs. Duterte expressed commitment to provide them with prosthetics so that they would be able to resume performing their daily activities.
The PSG, binigyan ko ng 100 million a month. Then, ang Viluna, 50 million a month. Ang AFP, 50 million a month. Kaya wag sana akong makarinig na walang pera pang medisina ang sundalo ko. And for those who were, may a bit sad na yung naging baldado, I said I guarantee them that they can walk again and use their arm again. Sabi ko, and it's gonna be the prosthetics and robotics.
To give Filipinos a sense of security and pride, Duterte renewed his call to both soldiers and police officers to conduct daily silent drills. Unclear whether he was being serious or not, Duterte said he would raise the prize for the next silent drill competition from 1 million pesos to 3 million pesos.
Frequency of the drilling, but I want the people to see soldiers and policemen doing the drill every day. Gawin ninyo yan, and the December finals would be 1 million. Baka dagdagan ko pa ng 2 million. Dagdagan ko pa ng 3 million.
On December 20 last year, the first ever presidential silent drill competition was held at the Quirino Grandstand in Manila to boost support for Duterte's bid to revive the mandatory ROTC program. The Philippine Military Academy was crowned the champion and received a top prize of 300,000 pesos. Meanwhile, Duterte congratulated the new PSG commander, Army Colonel Jesus Durante, as he expressed hope that he would provide excellent security to the office of the president, his family, visiting heads of states, and diplomats.
I thank you for stepping up to the challenge of being the next of the PSG. I look forward to working with you in the coming months.
Prior to being PSG commander, Durante headed the presidential escorts. He is also a member of the Philippine Military Academy class of 1992. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Benj Bondo.
Rather than a military alliance, the Russian government said it prefers establishing equal partnerships in the region where a fair system is in place. During a speech on the occasion of the Russian Armed Forces Day in Makati City on Monday, Russian Ambassador to Manila Igor Kovayev points out that they are not trying to contain someone or to create some sort of alliance because, in the best case, they provide security for a selective few member states at the expense of others. He said in Russia, they have no appreciation of military alliances, but more of equal partnerships to guarantee the same level of security for all the players in the international arena. At present, he said, Manila and Moscow have already developed ties such as joint military drills and a number of port calls both by Russian and Philippine Navy ships. High-level delegations from the Department of National Defense have also attended significant military events and fora in Russia. The Philippine National Police hits a group of artists who allegedly deplore a historical site during the commemoration of EDSA Revolution. And DOST launches Sparta for data and analytics training in the country. More on this from Joyce Cudis.
The Philippine National Police on Wednesday slammed the digital vandalism made by a group of artists and cultural workers on the walls of Camp Crame in commemoration of the 34th anniversary of the EDSA People Power Revolution. On Tuesday night, the concerned artists of the Philippines used projectors to display a wanted poster showing President Duterte's face at the walls of the PNP headquarters compound. PNP spokesperson Brigadier General Bernard Bannock said that all the vandals did not leave any visible mark. The fact that the attack targeted the National Historic Site on the same day that the country commemorates the anniversary of the EDSA People Power Revolution makes it totally deplorable. In other news, the Philippine government on Wednesday announced that it has banned all travelers coming from North Gyeongsang province in South Korea. Filipino tourists are also banned from traveling to any part of South Korea, including Jeju Island. The government's temporary travel ban on mainland China and its special administrative regions Hong Kong and Macau remains in effect, except for permanent resident students and OFWs. Meanwhile, the Department of Science and Technology launched on Monday its Sparta program, or Smarter Philippines through R&D training and adoption. The program aims to produce 30,000 data scientists via online learning and would give the government employees a background on data analytics and retraining on artificial intelligence for the BPO sector. Interested individuals must first register at www.coursebank.ph and follow the step-by-step process for application. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Lid Kabagani.
Still to come, the Run for Jesus event in Iloilo was canceled due to the threat of coronavirus disease. More on these when the PNA Newsroom continues.
Speaker or guest of honor ay siya pong champion of freedom of information at nag-champion din po ng Presidential Task Force on Media Security para protektahan ang ating pong media. Sa nagpong media man, please welcome Secretary Martin Andaman.
We hope that both the documentary and the magazine will help enlighten everyone on the multi-dimensional approach the government is taking to address the problem of illegal drugs. This is not something that can be done by the government alone, nor with just a handful of agencies and civilian volunteers. It requires the participation of everyone. Let us begin by the support of the family, the neighborhood, the church, the media, combined with the government's effort until the whole of nation convergence for the care of one drug addict at a time, all the time.
President Duterte is seeking a stronger partnership with Manila-based multilateral lender Asian Development Bank as part of his efforts to acquire funds for Build, Build, Build infrastructure program. Duterte expressed his desire to enhance collaboration with the ADB during a meeting with its president Masatsugu Asakawa at the office of the Department of Finance on Monday. During the courtesy call, Duterte sought for ADB's participation and support as the government embarks on its ambitious infrastructure initiatives. He sought for the bank's assistance to improve the capacity of the government to undertake public-private partnership projects with increased private sector participation. ADB said it is planning to lend a record high $3.3 billion to the Philippines this year, with about half supporting the government's infrastructure program. In our business news, an economist of Philippine National Bank expects an upgrade to A level of the country's credit rating once legislators approve the remaining tax reform measures. PNB economist June Trinidad identified the crucial measures as the Corporate Income Tax and Incentives Rationalization Act, or CITIRA, and the Passive Income and Financial Intermediary Taxation Act, or PIFITA. Trinidad said savings incurred as a result of lower corporate income taxes through a CITIRA could be deployed for upgrading production efficiency or for boosting labor productivity. Meanwhile, PIFITA will strengthen the savings culture and broaden household preference to invest in financial assets. Trinidad said the approval of these tax reform proposal and other investment credit rating upgrade from Fitch would burnish the appeal of local and foreign currency denominated Philippine financial assets to offshore investment flows. He said these will further strengthen public finances and improve the state's capacity to spend and address short-term losses. The management of Mount Pulag Park in Benguet has closed down one of its trails following an 8-day forest fire. The Akiki Trail, one of the paths leading to the peak of the summit, was closed due to safety concerns. The forest fire that burned from February 11 to 18 at Mount Pulag damaged more than 160,000 trees and saplings. These were planted under the expanded National Greening Program of the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, or DENR. The DENR said the burned area has a vegetative cover that is also a fire hazard. Initial reports of Kabayan firemen said the blaze started in Sitio Sacob and Abat of Barangay Adaway, where there are grazing cows and gardens. The Office of Civil Defense said community livelihood activities are among the suspected causes of forest fires in Benguet. OCD Cordillera has called on the involvement of the community in preventing and fighting forest fires. The local government of Dinalupihan, Bataan announces 3 new programs for farmers. Meanwhile, authorities in Iloilo City cancel an event meant to gather about 20,000 participants. More on this and other news from the provinces from Lade Cabagani.
3 big programs are set to be implemented in Dinalupihan, Bataan that will directly benefit more than 3,000 farmers. The Agro-Innotech Center will be built under the private-public partnership scheme between the provincial government of Bataan and an Israel company. The second program, the mayor said, is a farm or agritourism wherein the Department of Tourism has recently committed to prioritize funding and to make Dinalupihan a pilot area. The third is the training of 100 farmers in Barangay Pagalangang courtesy of SM Foundation. In Iloilo City, the permit for the Run for Jesus, an event expected to gather 20,000 people, was cancelled by this government due to the threat of COVID-19. City Mayor Jerry Treñas said the cancellation is meant to prevent the entry of the COVID-19 as some participants are supposed to be coming from an affected city in Korea. The city will also be declaring all travelers from Korea as persons under monitoring, and they will be asked to voluntarily quarantine themselves. 20 Korean nationals have arrived through the Calibo International Airport for the Run for Jesus event. Meanwhile, the local government of Zamboanga City is set to buy 25 million pesos worth of personal protective equipment for emergency responders. An emergency bidding will be held to fast-track the purchase of the PPE. The equipment have uses beyond the preventive measures to prevent the spread of COVID-19. The city government has allocated some 220 million pesos for disaster mitigation, preparation, response, recovery, and rehabilitation. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Lade Cabagani.
Still to come, dengue cases in Bicol have dropped by 20%, and a boost in tourism industry in Mati is expected with the inclusion of Poha and 2 others into the list of the world's most beautiful bays. The PNA Newsroom returns after these reminders.
Cebu has ruined so many people's lives, and it's very good that President Duterte is combating the spread of Cebu. It's impossible to save every drug addict, but I think what you can do is you can make a real difference, and I think that's what President Duterte is doing. Sadly, there's a lot of fake news, and this is something that's being combated, and I think it's very good that the PCOO is doing this roadshow, if you like. You know, there have been criticisms in the past that maybe people aren't doing enough to spread the real message.
Which gives access to all Filipinos to healthcare. First time that the government actually talked to them. Yeah, approached them and engaged them.
The Presidential Communications Operations Office.
The Department of Health office in Bicol said on Monday dengue cases in the region have dropped by 20% this 2020 compared to that of last year. It said there were 667 cases during the period from January 1st to February 22nd this year, as against 832 cases reported in the same period last year. DOH Regional Epidemiology Surveillance Unit Chief Dr. Aurora Daluro also said of this year's figure, 4 patients have died of the mosquito-borne disease. Camarines Sur has the most number of dengue cases with 373. Health surveillance units have declared at least 9 hotspot villages in these areas. In our foreign news, Egypt's former president Hosni Mubarak has died on Tuesday at the age of 91 after suffering a long illness. Mubarak had served as president for nearly 30 years until he resigned as a result of mass protests that erupted in Egypt in 2011. He was jailed for years after the uprising of charges of corruption and killing protesters, but was freed in 2017 after being acquitted of most charges. In a statement, Egypt's presidency mourned the death, calling Mubarak a hero of the October 1973 war. Supporters of Mubarak's page on Facebook also mourned his death and offered condolences to his 2 sons. The inclusion of Poha, Mayo, and Valletta Bays in Davao Oriental into the most beautiful bays in the world is seen to boost the province's tourism sector, especially its capital, Mati City. Mati City Information Officer Ben Jason Tasiorna said on Monday that the recognition only served to challenge local officials to protect the 3 bays even further. He said Mayor Michelle Rabat is fast-tracking the master plan for the protection of the bays, including the establishment of sewage treatment and a catchment basin. In a previous interview, Rabat stressed the need to establish a sewage treatment plant to ensure that wastes from the household going out to Poha Bay are treated first. Rabat said the inclusion of the 3 bays into the MBBWA has become a challenge to persevere in their efforts to protect and preserve the environment. The official awarding for the MBBWA certificate is set to take place during its annual Congress in Morocco this October. The country celebrates the birth anniversary of Lazaro Francisco, one of the literary icons of Philippine literature. Aspiring writers in Cabanatuan City presented their best works to live up to his legacy. Ruth Abby Gita Carlos has the story.
The Samahang Lazaro Francisco, an organization formed in honor of the national artist, has conferred awards on the winners of Gawad Lazaro Francisco, its first poem and short story writing contest in Cabanatuan City. This was the highlight of the Filipino novelist's 122nd birth anniversary celebration at his former residence turned museum in Barangay Bonifacio on Saturday. Rene Boy Abiva, SLF founding president, said holding the contest is a response of the group to the declining appreciation to the Filipino language and literary. Francisco defended the same by forming the Brotherhood of the Philippine Languages in 1958, where he joined the likes of Amado Hernandez and Liwayway Arceo. Cristobal Alipio, who took agriculture colors for his genre, bagged the first place for poetry with his Noon Kung Tulain ang Buhay sa Bukid. For short story was Edmar Tigulo with first prize for Ragasa ng Kapalaran. They received cash, medals, and certificates. The pieces tackled the daily life and experiences of farmers and agricultural workers in central Luzon. Francisco spent most of his life in Cabanatuan City when his family settled since his childhood. He was recipient of many awards, including the Republic Cultural Heritage Award in 1970 and Ateneo's Tanglaw ng Lahi Award, which recognized him as a master of the Tagalog novel. He was posthumously awarded the National Artist of the Philippines for Literature in 2009. Francisco died on June 17, 1980. For the PNA Newsroom, I'm Ruth Abby Gita Carlos.
Let's take another look at today's biggest stories. The Philippines sends the highest number of repatriates among other foreigners on board the COVID-19 infected cruise ship. DFA Secretary Teodoro Locsin Jr. lauded the AFP for deploying 2 naval ships to repatriate Filipinos affected by tensions in the Middle East. And a boost in tourism industry in Mati is expected with the inclusion of Poha and 2 others into the list of world's most beautiful bays. Thank you for watching another episode of the PNA Newsroom. To check out more news content, check our webpage or head onto the Philippine News Agency's Facebook and Twitter accounts. For more stories about the government and how it serves Filipinos, look for these hashtags in all of our social media platforms and websites. We are shown on the pages of the PCOO and its attached agencies. Also watch us on television on PTV4 and IBC 13. And that's your daily dose of the biggest stories that you need to know. From the PNA Newsroom, I am William Theo. Good day.